Meet Steve and Tina. Today they are having their custom-designed Jackson & Perkins garden installed. As soon as you receive your order, make sure to open the boxes and let the plants acclimate to your weather conditions. Along with your plants, you'll find some paperwork, instructions for planting, a promotional code for your next order, and your custom-designed garden layout. Each plant is already labeled and makes it easy to find them on your planting plan.
The first thing you want to do before you plant is we want to grid out this bed so it corresponds to the planting plan. If you remember, on the planting plan, 1 square equals 1 foot. Just remember that. So the first thing I've done now, I've laid a tape measure along the edge of the bed. I can see the foot mark, so I'm just going to take the back end of this rake, and I'm just going to draw lines like I'm basically drawing out a piece of graph paper. And I'll do this all the way down the bed. I'm just doing just a small part here just to demonstrate to you. And then once I'm done, I will then take that tape measure, put it that way, and I will come down and draw lines again, going this way every 1 foot. And that way when I'm finished, my bed resembles that planting plan, that graph paper, that tells me where to place the plants. Another way to grid out your bed is if you don't want to bother with a rake and a tape measure and all that, I just made a real simple tool. A couple pieces of scrap lumber. This is 1 foot wide, made myself a little handle. This way, I don't have to worry about tape measures. I can just start drawing my lines, and I'll edge it like this with this end. Smooth it out. Edge it with this end. Smooth it out. Edge it with this end. Smooth it out. Edge it with this end, and so on. Then I come back this way, go ahead and draw my first line. I can kind of keep this up in the air a little bit so I don't erase the lines I've got. Use it as a reference. And I'm just gridding out my bed with just a couple of pieces of scrap lumber we found in the garage. Now that we've got our bed laid out with the grid pattern that matches the planting plan, it's time to start placing the plants. And that's where this is your guide. So our first plant on this planting plan is a boxwood skywalker. You always want to start in the back corner and with the back row and work your way forward. That's the best way to go with the reference with the bed. So this one is basically centered between the window and the wall. That's right about here. And according to this, I am 2 feet off of that. So I've got 1 line, 2 line, centered. That's where the plant goes. Our first row is in. Now we've got a reference point. We continue working towards the front of the bed and down along the bed. So my next plant is a boxwood. It's going to go basically 1, 2, about 3 feet. Let's go right about there. Then I've got roses going this way according to my planting plan. Again, the first one goes about 3 feet away from this. I can see my grids. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And now here is where you can start to use some of your judgment a little bit. I've got a couple more roses to go in. I've got a little more room than I thought here. So I can go ahead and now start tweaking a little bit. I can slide this down a little bit, slide this down a little bit, slide this down a little bit, this down a little bit, and now we've got a good fit. So basically, while we have the guide with the planting plan and the grids, also use your visual eye, know the mature width of the plants, and adjust accordingly. That's how your garden's going to look the best. Now I've got the garden all laid out and we're ready for planting. I'm going to give it one more check to see if I like the spacing. I realize you're probably looking at this and thinking, my gosh, there's a lot of room between those plants. Well, again, remember, I'm spacing them for mature size. So these hostas and these boxwoods are going to get 3 foot across. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Okay, that's 3 feet. That's the width of that hosta at mature size. That comes to here. Come over here, 3 feet, 18 inches. Again, 3 feet, 18 inches. I know these are centered where they need to be, and I know eventually these are going to meet and they're going to touch. So remember, when you're laying out the plants, lay them out for the size they're going to be, not the size they are now. Now that the garden's laid out, we're ready to start planting. So Graham's going to start planting here, and it's very simple. We don't have to dig a big hole because we've amended the entire bed. So we'll start with this one boxwood here. So Graham, if you want to go ahead and get rolling here, all he's going to basically do is mark the spot where he's got, dig himself a hole essentially as big as the pot, not a whole lot bigger than that, just enough to get that thing in there. Because again, we've amended the entire bed. Our hole is dug. The next thing to do is to make sure it's the proper depth. The way to do that is basically take the pot, slip it inside the hole right there. You can basically take a look and use your hand and measure it. That looks like the good depth. You can tell Graham's a pro, knows what he's doing. Next thing we do is we're going to plant the plant. So when Graham's slipping the plant out of the pot, this is some packing material that Jackson Perkins sends you. It's recyclable. I would just scatter it in your bed and let it break down and become more organic material for your product. Now this you can see is a real good nice plant, good root system. We'll slip it in the ground. He'll basically then take the soil he's dug out, backfill it around to the size that it already is. That's just kind of slipping it around like that. Yep, that just slides in beautifully. Nice good soil that we spent time preparing. Tamp it down with your hands, don't use your foot, and basically you're planted. That's the theory, that's what you do.
It is important to start using the care products that come with your custom design right away, and then make sure you keep to a regular schedule. In the weeks and the months to come, we're going to be coming back to this garden. That'll help you understand better how your garden's going to fill in over time.